Now, if you've seen my YouTube channel before, chances are you're probably following the used car market crash. And you've probably been hearing about things like loan delinquencies and the repossession crisis, plummeting demand due to the economy and rising interest rates, chip shortages, supply chain issues, and so much more. Over the last year, I've covered nearly every facet that impacts the new and used car market. But the thing is, what's the status of these factors that are crashing used car prices? And that's a good question. So in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down what is currently impacting the used and new car market as we sit here today in February of 2023. I'm going to be giving you guys a status update, and I'm also going to be talking about some of the different factors that probably aren't having as much of an impact as we may have originally thought. Let's kick things off by talking about the supply chain. Now, as we know, the supply chain has pretty much been in shambles since we entered the pandemic nearly 3 years ago. And during and after the pandemic, due to a wide variety of different factors, supply chains for a wide variety of products got crushed. One of the industries impacted most by this was the automotive industry, specifically vehicle production. The idea that the supply chain could impact the car market crash comes with the belief that as the supply chain sorts itself out, this will result in an influx of cars to hit the market, which will in turn cause prices to go down. And while the supply chain logic is still accurate, the timeline is spotty at best, though it is improving. In 2021, it's estimated that about 11.3 million cars were cut from production because of supply chain issues, mainly the global chip shortage. In 2022, we saw a vast improvement, with only 3.5 million cars cut from production. And while it's still very early in 2023, current estimates show that this year we'll lose between 2 and 3 million units from production this year. Now, this is an improvement from last year, and it's a huge improvement compared to 2021. But whenever we look at where the numbers need to be in order to return to pre-pandemic normals, we're still a way off. Now, this is of course impacting the car market because producing more cars in 2023 compared to 2022 or 2021 will in turn of course create a positive impact on the market due to the increase in supply that this creates. But is it going to trigger a car market collapse or crash due to an influx in supply? Very unlikely. As we've headed further and further away from the start of the pandemic, as well as from the start of the supply chain issues that we saw in 2021, I'm beginning to believe that as the car market begins to sort itself out, it isn't going to cause some influx in supply that we were maybe originally hoping for. As consumers, I don't think that the supply chain sorting itself out is going to be something that we're going to be able to immediately notice as it happens. Instead, I think it will be something that we'll look back on 5 years from now and notice that there has been significant improvements. But those improvements in real time won't be noticeable at all because they're happening relatively slowly. As a result, while of course supply chain issues and these issues being sorted is positively impacting the car market and causing car prices to go down, I don't think that it's going to cause or will be causing any car market crash anytime soon, if at all. And that brings us on to the next topic, which is a recession. It feels as though we've all been talking about an impending recession for over a year now, and we still don't really have a clear idea of whether or not a recession is actually going to occur. As we sit here today in 2023, there is still a debate on whether we're going to see a recession, whether we're in one currently, and if we do see one, what does that even mean? By most US indicators, the US economy is in good shape, but by other accounts, the economy is pretty rough. There is no doubt a lot of speculation and debate surrounding the topic of a recession. And at the end of the day, I am not an economist, and there are people much smarter than myself studying this topic and trying to get a real accurate answer to this question. But I think in the context of the used car market and a used car market crash, rather than looking at the economy strictly from a recession standpoint, I think looking at it from the lens of the average consumer is much more valuable. And recession or not, I think we can all agree that for the average American, the economy isn't that great. Recessions and job markets aside, I think that we can all agree that life has gotten extremely expensive. From groceries to utilities to eating out to food to, well, everything. There are millions of people in the United States and around the entire world that are living paycheck to paycheck. And the fact that the average cost of living has gone up 10, 20, 30% is absolutely detrimental. This current economic outlook is causing people to second guess that new or used car purchase in order to save money. It's causing people to sell their cars because they simply can no longer afford it, or alternatively, it's causing people to go delinquent on their car loans, thus leading to a repossession. And all of these different factors have an impact on the used and new car market due to supply and demand. I believe that the increased cost of living, specifically the fact that the dollar just simply doesn't get you as far as it once did, is the leading factor whenever we talk about the car market crash. And I think that the effects that this is going to have moving forward, not only in 2023, but also years to come, is going to be massive. As for interest rates, this is absolutely affecting the car market, but are interest rates alone causing a car market crash? Unlikely. With higher interest rates, it's more expensive to borrow money to purchase a car, and it makes it harder to justify financing a car. 84% of new cars are financed, and about 34.5% of used cars are financed. The business of financing vehicles is an important business for not only the person borrowing the money, but also the lender who's lending that money out. And whenever money becomes more expensive to borrow, this can create issues all the way around. And we are definitely beginning to see this in the automotive industry. And while interest rates aren't going to single-handedly crash the car market, we can't ignore the fact that there is undoubtedly an effect. And it will be interesting to see what happens in 2023, because there is evidence to suggest that interest rates may flatline or may potentially go down as we head more and more into the year. Now, we can't talk about the economy and its impact on the used and new car market without talking about auto loan delinquencies and repossessions. Because as I mentioned a moment ago, as the economy worsens, as people have trouble paying their bills, as they fall behind on their loan payments, their car gets repossessed, and if this happens in large quantities, this is going to be absolutely detrimental to the car market. And I believe that this, along with the increased cost of living, is going to be the two biggest factors when it comes to the used car market crash of 2023. Now, the idea of repossessions and auto loan delinquencies leading to a car market crash comes along with this logic. People who bought cars in the last 2 to 3 years paid an inflated price for those cars. And over the last year, car prices have gone down. And as a result, cars are not worth as much as they once were. These people who paid a premium for these cars are now underwater, and their car is not worth as much as they owe on them. And because of the fact that these vehicles are worth less than what the borrower owes on them, you can't just simply sell the car because you're not going to be able to sell it for as much as you owe. And so because of this, whenever somebody who's underwater on their vehicle gets behind on their loan payments, there is very limited things that they can do in order to get ahead. One of those is to simply just let the car get repossessed. So as borrowers fall further and further behind, their car gets repossessed and now the bank owns the car. The bank then sends the car to auction, it gets sold at auction, and then some dealership sells it to you. As supply increases due to more and more repossessions, prices come down even more. Now these cars that people overpaid for are worth even less, and this creates a cycle that could certainly crash the car market. Auto loan delinquency rates are rising sharply, though this can be a misleading headline given the fact that delinquencies were basically non-existent throughout 2020 and 2021 due to COVID programs. But we can't ignore the fact that they are still rising. Borrowers behind on their auto loan payments were up 26.7% at the end of 2022 compared to 2021, and 1.84% of all auto loans are currently delinquent. Experts do predict that this delinquency rate will only increase, and once this happens, the car market will continue to crash. And the last, and I would say somewhat unexpected impact on the used car market that I want to talk about is the impact of the EV tax credit and EV price cuts. I believe that the impact that the electric vehicle tax credit is going to have on not only the electric vehicle market, but the used car market as a whole is absolutely massive. From their peak in July of 2022, used electric vehicles have gone from being on average $42,265 to $32,677. This tax credit doesn't just affect electric vehicles because it levels the playing field amongst EVs, gas-powered cars, used cars, and new cars. By making electric vehicles more affordable, it makes all cars much more competitive. And this drives prices down across the board. Now, whenever we look at the used and new car market and the different factors that are affecting the car market, from interest rates to a recession to inflation, supply and demand, tax credits, repossessions, and delinquencies, none of these factors on their own are going to crash the car market. But once you take these factors together and you compound them on top of one another, it could absolutely crash it. And I believe that this is what we have seen over the last few months, and it's what we will continue to see throughout 2023. But with that being said, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next video.